Hello, my Juicy co-creators. Lilou here on the Juicy Living Tour, and today I'm in Hawaii, in the beautiful island of Oahu, and we're here on the beach of Sans Souci, one of the most beautiful beach right outside of Honolulu, Waikiki. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm here sitting today with Robert, that is the author of several books, but including today, really, the topic is a very specific, special topic that I nearly didn't do, but I felt really this is important, and this is going to be very important for some people out there that really need to hear this, because this is about really grieving a soulmate. So it's not any type of grieving, it's a very particular grieving. Robert had the chance to be for 30 years with his soulmate, and Jeri, unfortunately, died of cancer, right?
Ovarian cancer, yes. Yeah, that's what happens at the end. One of the soulmates eventually goes, and then you have this big hole. So this is what this is about. So basically it's a book about grieving a soulmate as opposed to, let's say, grieving the loss of a job, the kind of book you wrote, or grieving loss of a mother or father or child. So there's something about grieving a soulmate that's kind of special to the relationship, the particular type of relationship that is involved. There are so many bonds, so much fusion between the two adult people that when that relationship comes to an end, it creates a huge amount of grief, and that's what I wrote about. And
that's the book. That's actually the book, Grieving a Soulmate, the love story behind Till Death Do Us Apart.
Unfortunately, that's what happens. Yes. You get death at the end, and that's what breaks that relationship at the end. But when that happens, a part of you, since the two people are so fused together, a part of you also dies. When your soulmate dies, it leaves a big hole inside of you. So anyway, that particular book about grieving, what's new is that I tried to take the grief involved, and instead of dealing with the entire grief, which can overwhelm you and kill you really, because it's such a big loss, I tried to see if we could make it more manageable, and I tried to break it down into buckets and deal with the grief in each bucket like a compartment, and then grab the grief burst, capture the emotion, and then deal with its source, and then diffuse it. So that's my contribution, is to try to see how I could break down this grief as opposed to taking on the whole thing. And everybody is going to have their own buckets. In my case, my buckets can become a template for other people, and the ones I used where the scenes from the last days, that creates all this trauma. Seeing your soulmate die, it's a very traumatic sort of thing, and the memories can be etched. What you see in the last 30 days or months can override an entire life. You see that person dying. Then of course there's a survivor's guilt. You're there and you're occupying a space for two, and she's not in that space with you anymore. Then there's a yearning part. I want her back. I just crave for her. The longing to see her again. And then there's self-pity, where you feel sorry for yourself. How am I going to reconstruct my life? Can I live again? Is there anything I can do to patch all those roles that were broken? I mean, she does. When you have two soulmates, they do so much for each other. It's just like it's a partnership, and one partner goes, it leaves a big emptiness. And then the fifth thing is deep existential questions. Where did she go? What happened to her? The whole question of mortality, my mortality, her mortality. What was it all about? So that's what the book does, more or less. Yeah.
Tell us about what happened really when she was diagnosed back then. What happened? You had been for 30 years together, or 20 years then?
20 years together then. We had this fairy tale life. Everything was perfect. I mean, we worked in Silicon Valley in the early days, computer software. We were developing stuff all the time. We wrote books together. We traveled around the world together, giving seminars on our books, on the technology in our books. It was just a perfect relationship. We were totally fused. She's the love of my life. It's just like, it doesn't get better than that. Your companion, your partner, your best friend, everything. Then what happened is when she got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, luckily we were in Hawaii at that time, and so we have this beautiful place, and we decided that we were going to fight her cancer, and together we could almost do anything. So we made it our cancer. So, feel the same pain, when you're in a soulmate relationship. When she has pain, I have the same pain almost, Sometimes I wanted to give her my veins for the chemo. But the way it works is you live completely for the present every day. Her cancer was very deadly. It's ovarian cancer, and survival rate is 2 years. And she survived 9.5 years, constant chemo. I mean, the cancer never went away. And but we had incredibly good days. Where she became a surfer. See that ocean over there? I mean, that's her surf spot. So
Great spot, Jeri.
Yeah, Jeri did pretty well. So it was either good days where she's surfing, having a great time, and living in the present and the moment, or those terrible chemo days where but at least she was able to rebound, bounce back, and made a communion with the water, with the ocean, and that was an important part of her dying experience. She learned how to relate to something a lot bigger than herself, the ocean, and through surfing she was able to tap into the energy of the water. Remember, Jeri was an executive at Silicon Valley, so being a surfer at 50 is a big accomplishment, especially if you're doing chemo. You understand? I mean, it's not easy to surf those waves.
So what would pull her in the water? What would she tell you?
It was just the mana of the ocean was healing. All the beach boys around us feel that the ocean is A, where their ancestors are, B, it's got healing powers, and it's a big body of water, of the universe, and that's easy to connect to. When you're in the water, that you're part of the food chain. Yeah, you're part of the universe, and you really feel it. And so she was able to make that connection, and she was very much at peace with herself, and she lived, like I said, for the moment. It was totally. That's what. Sometimes when I was young, I read "Be Here Now" by Ram Dass. I didn't understand it very well, but those 10 years of fighting your cancer, it was a be here now experience where you live exactly in the moment. And
for the moment. And you knew that was one more day you could spend with her. I mean, how was it for you going through that?
Well, I tried not to think about the end. Nobody does. That's one reason why I wrote the second book.
It's the death with dignity, actually.
So that the end part is a big deal because our system really is messed up. We have an end-of-life system that doesn't work very well, and nobody tells you all the issues. You discover them when you're there, when you cross that bridge. And unfortunately, it's too late. You can't do anything about it then. So part of what I try to do is explain how it works, explain how you can navigate that type of system and prepare yourself. With a very little bit of preparation, you can have a juicy death, just like you can have a juicy life. I mean, death is part of life. We're all going to die. Everyone on this beach is going to die. And unfortunately, 80% of them are not going to die the way they expect, which means in bed with their family, peacefully. And you may ask why. It's because modern medicine basically can allow us to prolong our life, forever almost. You can have a tube for almost every organ. And so they can keep you alive long past a certain point of dying. So that experience of just elongating life without too much quality and can be pretty bad. So you live a very juicy life, but then you come at the end, and this death thing can really mess you up. So if you think of death as being part of life, then we should do a little bit to fix that system. This is what I'm trying to do with my book.
So tell us where it's at right now. Are we talking about euthanasia?
Yeah, physician-assisted dying, like they do it in Oregon. In America, we basically are for a system where we take our own life. We don't have the doctors do it for us. In Europe, like in the Netherlands and Holland and Luxembourg, you can have the doctor do it for you, or you can do it yourself. But the American movement, which is now legal in Oregon and the state of Washington and Montana, the idea is that 2 doctors evaluate you. If you're within 6 months of dying, they write you a prescription for a barbiturate, a sleeping pill, and when you are ready, you take it. Nobody else can give it to you. You decide when is the right time, and you take it. And And the people that exercise that option in Oregon, most of them use it for insurance, just in case they need it, so they feel they have peace of mind. They can focus on their dying rather than focusing on the fear of that. See, death itself is not the problem. The problem is dying. Dying itself can be a horrible experience. So
there's some things that you're yourself wanting to do and work out and bring into manifestation and change how this works. You feel this is not how it's supposed to be, huh?
No. So basically what I want to do is legalize physician-assisted dying in the state of Hawaii, where I live, because that's where Jeri was. But my book can be used to legalize it anywhere in the U.S. because I explain exactly what the issues are, what the problems are, and basically we have two systems of dying in the U.S. in America, probably in the entire industrial world, not just in America. I mean, there's the intensive care unit where you have these heroic interventions until the very end. The tubes, intubation, and all that stuff. And then we have hospice and palliative care. And hospice and palliative care are better than the other way, because they allow you to have comfort care at the end. But they have their own set of problems. It's not completely, a joy. And the problems that they have mainly are who decides when to sedate you to the point where you die. And it's a draw of the luck. Because the only way that you can control that final pain, a terminal pain, in some cases, especially like cancer pains, is through sedation, where they sedate you completely to the point of oblivion, where you're completely gone. So you are drugged into unconsciousness, and then you're left to die through dehydration. Who makes that decision? The physician does. So it's up to the hospice, it's up to the physician. It's not up to you. It's you and your luck. And it turns out that there's a huge variance in how they use that practice. So they do euthanasia, but they do it on their own terms. And the variance is between 1 and 51%. In other words, in some hospices, they do it all the time. In some other hospices, they don't do it at all. So you never know. You can't ask them ahead of time. You can't have this open discussion about dying. So that's what makes the Netherlands and Oregon so important, is that it's the only places where you can have a euthanasia talk, a talk about how do I want to die with your doctors. And it involves the families, it involves the doctors, it involves the hospice. And they can discuss all your fears, the fear of being in a wheelchair, the fear of disability, the fear of pain, the fear of dying, the fear of what happens to my survivors, all that stuff. So all these things come on the table, and people can openly have a discussion about death and dying, something that nobody likes to do in a Western society.
What are the opponents of that saying, really? Why are they against it?
Well, the opponents come in two camps, and one camp is disappearing very quickly. The first camp are the slippery slope camps. If you start allowing this group of people to die, then you go down a slippery slope that ends up in a Nazi form of euthanasia, where you euthanize all the people that are, old, or people that are disabled, or whatever, or the minorities. So you go down a slippery slope to oblivion, and they try to do that as a scare tactic. So basically, don't change the law. If you change the law, you're going to have disaster coming. So they create fear. Well, Oregon's experience, we have at least 14 years of data now that we've collected from Oregon, and 30 years from Holland, shows that there aren't any slippery slopes. If anything, the palliative care is much better. It's the best American state for dealing with pain, for palliative care, for hospice referrals. People go more to hospice. So Oregon has developed almost what I call the perfect palliative care system for the U.S. by integrating assisted dying into the way we die, and by having this final conversation about death and dying. So a lot of people in Oregon know about all this, they talk about this. They don't necessarily take their life, but they feel good about having had this discussion or having that option. So that's what I'm trying to do for Hawaii too. Yeah. Because that's what Jeri wanted for herself. She wanted that option. She believed in it. And she couldn't have that option. And if you try to do it illegally by procuring drugs, a lot of these drugs that you procure through the internet and stuff like that, or through doctors who prescribe stuff, are not the best drugs. They're not the lethal drugs. You're getting second-rate drugs. and eventually some relative or some loved one has to finish off the job by putting a plastic bag over your head and suffocating you. So that's not a very pleasant way to die. It's not a juicy death. It leaves bad memories. A lot of people can get in trouble with the law. They're afraid. There's anxiety. So what are you supposed to do if you see your loved one suffering? You're supposed to let them suffer? Well, you feel obligated to do something for them. Well, if you kill them, then you will grieve. If you don't, you will still grieve. So you're in a catch-22 situation. So we have a very cruel system, because they dump you a problem and say, okay, it's yours now. You, the family, deal with it. Everybody has to suffer. Well, I don't believe everybody has to suffer. We have the technology not to suffer if we choose not to suffer. Those who want to suffer, be my guest, go and suffer. But for the ones who choose not to suffer, we had to give them that choice. So Jeri wanted that choice. And so that's why I'm fighting for this battle of trying to get it passed, because I think it should be a choice.
Yet the grief is still here. Nothing could have prepared you for this moment, huh?
Well, the grief is, I'm dealing with the grief. That's what.
How long has it been?
It's been 2 years and 1 month. So I'm dealing with the grief. That's not the issue. Part of my grieving probably is to try and fix for her legacy, leave something. Like if I can pass that law, I would feel I'd done something for Jeri, like a tribute for Jeri, a living tribute. Because we could call it Jeri's law in Hawaii. It would be something that would make me feel that I've accomplished something. It's a small little accomplishment, but it could help a lot of people. Obviously, if it's passed in other places, it could help more and more people. So what I've done in my book is I've gathered everything that's known about this thing, and explained it. I have all the facts from medical journals. I explain it in very simple terms. I'm making the ebook available almost for free, which is 99 cents, because Amazon won't let me give it for free. And I'm hoping that the ebook goes viral. Okay, so obviously I can't make the regular book, the paperback, go viral, but I could probably, if a lot of people get involved and pass the word, they can make the ebook go viral and get the word out. And then they can make up their own minds. What's important is that the book really explains the end-of-life system. It's a very complicated system, and I explain it in very simple terms, like we did for our computer science. We took a very complex system and decomposed it, made it easy to understand, and I try to do the same thing with the end-of-life system. Explain it in simple terms. People can understand their options, understand what they're up against, not have to drink the Kool-Aid, because a lot of us end up drinking the Kool-Aid. Just be informed, do something about it, because it affects everyone. If it doesn't affect, it affects you, it affects your loved ones, it affects every single person on this planet. I mean, I could have written a more relevant book in some ways, So all I'm saying is take an hour, read the book. If you understand, if you agree with some of the issues, then pass it on. And that's the only way to do it.
I want to go back and speak about Jeri for a second.
Okay.
Because this is really about her. This is part of your grieving process also, is being in action about this to give her something. Yes. Do you believe she's here in spirit? Can you connect with her, probably in the ocean?
Well, Jeri's right in front of us here. I mean, she's buried right in this ocean. So every day I swim with Jeri. She's in the ocean. She's part of that system, the ocean. I feel her presence. You can, the ocean has a way of making itself felt. So it's a very powerful force. Yeah, so you feel the energy of the ocean. I mean, we're just sitting at the water edge here.
We are literally and soon being swept away.
But you're dressed up for the evening, So, but this is, when I look at the ocean, I want to go in, just be part of it, because it immerses me with Jeri. She's almost like caressing me. The ocean has this incredible voluptuous effect, and it.
I love how the ocean is powerful, yet just there, and has this powerful way of bringing us to it. Like anything, really, like anything we want to achieve, it feels like there's a certain, we have to dance with it. Yeah. Even, because you do want to pass the law, and I feel how passionate you are, and yet she's saying something here through the ocean.
Well, the ocean is it's such a intuitive way of connecting. You don't have to be too philosophical to feel the spirituality of the ocean, to be part of the ocean. It's an easy way to feel spiritual. it happens automatically once you get in. You immerse yourself, like we do in Hawaii. It's part of our life. You know, I'm in the water every day, and it's just another ecosystem that you're totally part of, and that you. So Jeri, it feels like Jeri's still there, and it feels one day I'm going to be in that same ocean, and somehow we're going to find ourselves again.
Is that what you long for? Meeting her again?
Of course I do, but I don't know in what form or shape. But you know, the fact is that I know one thing for certain is I'll be in the same ocean as she is. So if nothing else, our atoms will be in the same place. Now, if there's a spirit or not, I don't know. I hope there is a spirit and I can be with her again. I hope there's a body too, because I love her body. I just don't want a spirit. I want more.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing this very intimate, this intimacy and these important issues that you're facing and that you're dealing with and that you want to bring out into the world. So I hope this will contribute and help you.
Thank you. I know talking about death is our last taboo. You know, it's a taboo in society. And people, you know, thank you for taking the time to bring up the topic. I know it's highly uncomfortable. It's the last thing I would have wanted to talk about before this happened. But now I feel I have to do something about it, because it's people like me who have survived and witnessed something like that can bring up the issues. You know, most people take it, you know, don't have to think about it too much. So thank you for giving me that opportunity.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thank you. And my beautiful co-creators, we send you so much love from beautiful Hawaii on Honolulu, from one of the last interviews here, actually. And soon in Maui. Aloha.
Wow.